The Trap Set will always be available for free, but we rely on donations from our listeners. Please visit our website at thetrapset.net and click donate. Subscribe to our show on iTunes, and if you enjoy what you hear, give us a review.
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to The Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I want to play something for you.
Said you were 10 feet tall, yeah, bulletproof. 10 feet tall, yeah, bulletproof.
You're hearing Chinese Fork Thai by Jawbox, featuring my guest, Zach Barocas on drums. Zach joined Jawbox in 1992, bringing the legendary Washington, D.C. band's sound into focus just as they made the leap to a major label. He possesses the rare ability to make rhythmically complex beats feel organic and urgent. While many drummers aim to serve the song, Zach's unique drumming is inseparable from the song. Jawbox disbanded in 1997, and Zach moved to New York City. Although he stopped pursuing drumming as a profession, he has continued to perform and record with excellent groups such as the Up On In and Bells. I spoke to him recently while he was vacationing in Los Angeles. And now our conversation with Zach Barocas.
My father was a clinical psychologist and a professor at the University of Rochester, and then later we moved to Fairfax, Virginia, outside of D.C.
Yeah.
And my mother was a public school teacher in Rochester.
When did you move?
We moved, my father and I moved in 1981, and then I moved back to Rochester in 1983.
Okay.
I went to high school up there. And
So your parents split up and you moved, and then you moved back with your mom?
Yeah.
Okay. What was your childhood like? I mean, up until then, what were you into?
I think I think of it as normal, you know. It was I think a fairly conventional middle-class Jewish scene. You know, my brother was bar mitzvahed. I was bar mitzvahed.
Did you have a band at your bar mitzvah?
No, my bar mitzvah was pretty low-key, and it took place while we lived in Virginia. So it's a little hazy. But I did, my first band was after the split. I was pretty young when my parents split, so I don't really know if there's much to say about life before that. But the year after that is when I started playing drums, and the year after that was when I got my first kit, and played in a band with a bunch of my brother's Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh shit!
Buddies.
Was it a prog rock band?
No, and as I remember, our set was composed entirely of the Who's "Meaty Beaty Big and Bouncy."
Oh wow!
Like side A on through side B. That might not be quite true, but it's close.
How did you gravitate towards the drums?
Originally, I was taking trumpet. I was signed up to take trumpet at school when I was 9, and I skipped all of my lessons because I didn't want to learn scales.
Mm-hmm.
As I remember it anyway. And then my punishment was I had to take an instrument the following year. And I picked drums because it had no scales.
It has rudiments, though.
I didn't know that.
What was the first music that you really loved? The Who?
Oh, it was the Beatles. I'd give it to the Beatles.
Okay.
And then the Who, though, was the first one where I, like the Beatles and Miles Davis and the Clifford Brown and Max Roach Basin Street set. Like, those were records we had in the house.
So yeah, those are pretty great records to have in the house.
Oh, though. yeah. I got lucky that way. But the Kiss was the first one I found on my own. Kiss Destroyer.
You're that age. Pretty much anybody that was born in the 60s that I've had in here talks about that.
It was. I don't know how much it mattered for music, but it certainly mattered a lot for feeling like I was doing my own thing.
Yeah.
You know? Like neither of my parents were particularly interested in Kiss. But it was the Who was the first band that seemed to offer everything. Like they were furious and they were cool, and occasionally there was some sign of sexual activity, but not too much. And it was loud and things broke, and their fans were legion. Like there was no question that this was a good way to be. And I think I found a great deal of comfort in that. Like I broke my first kick drum pedal playing along with Bob O'Reilly in my basement. You know, it was probably too exciting.
What did it mean to you to be punk?
Well, for one thing, everybody was mad about something.
Were you mad?
I was mad. I don't, but I didn't have a plan for it. You know, I didn't really. I couldn't say where. You know, there's something obvious about saying it came from my parents' divorce or the
Right.
displacement to Virginia, which is no doubt true. But I'm fairly sure I brought some of my own temperament to those events. And the punk kids, like they knew people in other cities. Like it was much larger than anything I had experienced before. They toured. They wrote each other letters.
It was more of a community.
Records. Well, it also seemed much more, they weren't waiting for someone else to do anything.
When you were a kid and you're getting into punk rock, did you have aspirations of becoming a professional musician or no? What did you have aspirations to do anything in particular?
Well, yeah, I wanted to have my band at the time was called Powerline, and we wanted to have a 7-inch. And as I remember, there was a local guy who had a label of some kind. Some friends of ours were on his label. But he was sort of fronting us the money or something to do the recording. But DeSoto, which was Kim Coletta's label, and at that time Jawbox and Edsel's label in D.C., they were going to put out the 7-inch.
How did you meet them?
We booked a show in Rochester. I actually had called Fugazi to see if they wanted to come up. And they weren't touring right then, so Ian said, you should talk to, I think it was Joey from Holy Rollers, or Kim from Jawbox.
So this is late 80s we're talking about.
89.
Yeah.
89 or 90. Yeah, I think it was late 80. I can't remember. I know I met them in 1990. Was when I met them in person for the first time, Kim and Jay.
Mhm. You were in your early 20s.
Yeah.
What else were you doing? Were you in school? Were you working?
I was doing nothing. Most of that time I had managed to avoid having a job.
How?
Kept moving back in with my mother.
Was she pushing you to do something else with your life?
Yes.
Was she worried about you?
Yes, she was.
So what was she pushing you to do?
Anything except keep moving back into her house.
Yeah.
But I kept moving back into the house, but my band also practiced in her basement.
That's convenient.
It was for us. I don't know that I was really as concerned with her feelings on the matter as I could have been. We get along better now than we did then.
Well, that's good.
But I didn't really know. I knew while I was still in Rochester that I had to get out of Rochester. I don't think that was true for everybody I knew then. I know some people who stayed there and are fine. I don't think I was going to be fine if I stayed there.
What did you do all day? Did you practice all day, or were you just kind of like trying to figure it out? I think I was walking around
smoking cigarettes. I don't think there was. I'd gotten sober as a kid.
Okay, let's go into that. What was your drug of choice?
It was mostly reefer and some of whatever else was around.
When did you get into that stuff?
83, 82. Yeah, like 8th or 9th grade. 8th grade, I guess.
So the need to get sober was based on the fact that you got heavily into it?
Yeah, well, and I also stopped going to school. and there was some, less so for me than some of my friends, but there was some police trouble. It was a known issue among me and my friends, and I think it was also 1985, and a lot of people were going to rehab. I think that was viewed as a solution for all kinds of things.
Right.
I went voluntarily.
So you went into rehab?
Yeah, that summer of '85. Several of my friends had gotten kind of simultaneously busted, and I found myself with kind of short on friends again, and came to understand that I would be in serious trouble instead of just regular serious trouble if I didn't do something about it. And I didn't want to go to summer school, which was part of the evolving story of my public education, was that by not going to school, of course, the district continued to try to find solutions, and there really weren't any.
Yeah.
I mean, as it happened, I kept going. I actually went back to, I was a junior twice and a senior twice, but I think that's because I didn't know what else to do.
Did you end up graduating?
No.
Did your dad have you in therapy?
He was in Virginia for most of this.
What was your brother doing? Was
My
your brother
brother,
the polar opposite or something?
I wouldn't say that, although I can see why people would think that. He's a biomedical engineer. He did his undergraduate work at MIT and got his PhD at the University of Minnesota, where he teaches now. He and I are pretty sure we're very much alike.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see how that kind of neuroses manifests differently in different people.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always skeptical about using terms like neurosis to describe it, but I think there are, we pick up on ways, and we intuitively have ways, and we instinctively have ways, and we're wired in ways that lead us to certain sets of behaviors. I don't know.
Yeah.
Every alcoholic I know is basically the same. There's not a whole, in terms of the alcoholism, I don't know that, like most of us drank too much and kind of ruined everything, or came very close and hurt a lot of people and lost a lot of money and went to court and then either stopped drinking or did it all again.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change much. Everyone who smokes cocaine has a story about picking lint up out of the carpet hoping it'll burn. These are not, they're terrifying, but they're not unique. And I think in my brother's case, he found a lot of the same kinds of comfort that I might have found in drugs or playing music. He found in math. Mm-hmm. He found in he's a crossword puzzle writer.
Oh,
so
wow.
he has puzzles in the Times out here. He has puzzles in the New York Times once in a while.
Is he friends with Shorts?
He has met Shorts, and he competes in the international competition. But I think some of that is also what anybody would do. There's a reason crossword puzzles are popular.
Yeah, because it's got a logical conclusion.
Well, and you can sort of get lost in it without breaking any windows. I think the same thing is true for playing music.
Yeah.
Like no one, if you're in casual conversation with someone and you say you're a drummer, they're just going to start talking to you about drums.
Yes.
They don't start talking to you about, overdrawn bank accounts or anything
That's
else.
what this show is for. We're going to get into that.
Right? Yeah, the debt of musicianship is a different story.
Do you have debt right now?
I don't.
Because you're not playing full time anymore, right?
No, but I didn't have. I had one period of kind of extraordinary debt and none since.
Okay.
But yeah, no. I mean, effectively, I haven't played professionally in 20 years.
Yeah.
Which doesn't bug me much. Most of my friends who've stuck with it have stuck with it in other ways.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Colectivo Coffee. Handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at colectivo.com.
You were in rehab, and did it take the first time?
No, I went back the next year, and then I was sober for 9 years, 8 years. I mean, a while, given my age,
Yeah.
you know. But then we were home a lot so then I joined Jawbox in 92, and we signed to Atlantic in 93, and then Sweetheart came out in 94. And we toured all year. That was the year we were out all year. 95, we didn't do much because we kept waiting to go into the studio. I don't remember it this way, but apparently, I didn't remember it this way until fairly recently. The label kept saying, "What? That sounds great. Why don't you guys keep working on it?" And consequently, we were never going in to record, but we kept thinking we were going to. So we had a tour at the beginning of the year. I think that one was with Edsel, and then one at the end of the year with Jawbreaker, I think. And then we finally went into the studio the following January in 96. In the middle of that, I decided to start drinking.
Was there anything in particular that spurred the decision on, or were you just bored?
I think I was bored, and I think I had decided something about arrogance was in there. Something in there.
Like you felt like you could control it.
I was really sure it wouldn't matter. And I think another aspect of it was I wanted to make sure of that. So I drank privately for a while before I let anyone know I was doing it. But I was a drunk from the start. Like there was no casual or so-called social drinking for me. And then once I started touring again,
then there's booze readily available.
Yeah, like I never
everywhere you
drank
go.
before we played. I've never been able to drink and then play. But I drank the rest of the time, and it became. I liked the identity I thought it gave me, which had been true of everything.
What's the identity you thought it gave you?
I thought it made me looser. I'm not very loose, by and large. I thought it made me more agreeable. I thought it made me maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember for a moment thinking it made me like more charismatic. It made me more indifferent. But it didn't take long for it to also make me into a pretty serious jerk. And there were a lot of people I used to know. There are a lot of people I used to know that I think it's their generosity and their character and their spirit that has led us back to each other. If that makes any sense. Like I don't know that I was doing
forgiveness?
anything. Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far because they wouldn't. Like they don't really look at it that way.
Right.
Like a lot of the things that I found so offensive, they remember.
They
but
were
they
able to
don't-
brush off a little
Yeah,
bit. Yeah.
they figured, well, it's that's the way Barocas is, and he's drunk again, and but it wasn't. There were stretches there where it wasn't that easy to find a job, where certainly like whatever was happening in my marriage or with the rest of my family was not looking good.
When did you get married?
2003.
And you were still drinking throughout that whole time.
Yeah, although the marriage kind of tempered it, because I couldn't drink all the time, which was sort of what I had decided to do. And it was on again, off again. There were stretches of anywhere from, I don't know, a couple months to a year where I didn't drink. But after I got married, it got very bingy. I would sort of seize an opportunity.
Does your wife drink?
Not really anymore.
Okay.
but she never drank like me.
Right.
You know. But you know, I think when we were there's about 10 years where I sort of didn't play. I played a little, but nothing I look back on and say that like I'm really glad I did it. You know, I think I feel that way about the Jawbox records I did. I feel that way about the Up on In record. Bells continues to be kind of inextricably bound to its members' personal journeys and my sobriety, which this time started right before in 2008, right before we moved back to New York.
How did you come to join Jawbox?
I lived with them, or most of them, and Bill came into my room and asked me if I would play with them, and I only remember saying like I didn't want to audition, like I would play with them, but I didn't want to be one of 6 guys who might play with them.
Right.
And then while Jay was gone, which was like 9 weeks or something, 8 or 9 weeks, I learned the set, and then when Jay came back, we started, you know, playing like a band. And that would have been April of 92.
And then shortly after that, you signed with a major label. And
Well, it was like a year.
Was it exciting when it started, when you signed to a major label and they gave you an
Well,
advance and you got to...
I made $5,000 off that deal. We each did, you know, which seemed like an impossible amount of money. I'd never gotten $5,000.
What was your rent at the time, approximately?
My rent was $200 a month.
All right.
Maybe $250. I can't remember. There was one of my housemates, his girlfriend might have moved in, which would have brought it down to $200. But I can't remember if that was before or after.
Okay.
But, you know, I had to get a driver's license again. I had to get a bank account again. Like I worked under the table and went to the community college part-time.
Let's talk about the end of Jawbox and what your next step was. How did it come to an end?
This is a little hazy. I know.
Why is it hazy?
Oh, because I was drunk a lot, and I don't remember it very well. And I also at that time wasn't too concerned with what anyone else wanted to do. So we got home from a tour November, I guess, of 96. And it had not gone. It was the first one that really had not gone well. And by then, I was working on a way to move to New York.
Why?
More action.
Okay.
New York was. I mean, it's New York. Right?
Yeah.
It seemed more New York to me then than it does now. But the dating was better. The bars were better. The people I met were my friends up there were all more or less writing dissertations at NYU in cinema studies, which was sort of where I was headed, I thought. Everything was bigger and brighter and better. It was, you know, and I was that was my destiny, you know. And I couldn't there were some artistic differences in the group. I think I was leaning towards more complicated song structures, out of lack of a better phrase. And Kim wasn't really up to the task. I think in part because she didn't see the point, which is fair, and in part because she was so busy trying to figure out what to do with our band, which by then we had been think we had been dropped. If not, then it was imminent. And my thought was, something like, who needs it? I could be in New York. I don't need this.
Did you think you would be able to just jump into another band, no problem?
I had no intention of playing music again. It was another.
So you were really into film at this point?
Yeah.
And what was your goal? Like, you wanted to become
a
film scholar? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I was interested in the kind of much more the theoretical and historical side of things than filmmaking. But I think I also thought that somehow, I don't know what I was thinking exactly, but maybe that somehow having been moderately successful in this band, that would somehow contribute to whatever else I was going to do.
It probably does.
I think it did later. At the time, I think I didn't know how to handle anything.
Uh-huh.
I had just spent 5 years managed by someone else, from the age of, 22 to 27. No offense to any 22 to 27-year-olds listening to this thing, but that's a pretty fragile age. Like, looking back on it now, I don't think I know anyone that age who knows what they're doing, which is fine. Like, you're pretty resilient too in those years. But I came out of that. I think I had some whiplash not being in a band anymore and having to get a day job and having to file my own taxes. Pretty routine stuff. But I had
learning how to be an adult.
I had no interest in that. No idea about that. I actually thought that holding my liquor was part of that.
Uh-huh.
And as it turns out, I wasn't particularly good at that either.
What kind of liquor did you drink?
It was all whiskeys.
Okay.
Any kind of whiskey. I mean, I had my preferences, but that year especially I stopped drinking at the beginning of 98 and in 97 because I just couldn't. I was sick all the time.
It came and went for another.
99 I started drinking again,
Yeah,
and then 2001 I stopped again, and it was back and forth.
And now it's been how many years?
7, a little over 7.
Yeah.
But I think that's the kind of decision I could make now. It's like the way we make music in Bells. If we haven't played a show now in over a year, doesn't mean we're not a band. We don't really worry about it too much.
Do you get a visceral response from listening to music that you love, even difficult records?
Yeah.
Like it gives you goosebumps, or
I don't like listening to music with other people frequently.
Why?
Because my response
is like watching porn with other people or something.
No, I don't know that it's that visceral. But it's I'm not always the most open with how I feel.
Yeah.
In the company of other people, and so much of that happens when I'm listening to music, that I tend to keep it to myself.
Yeah, and I mean that's a relationship that you can only have thanks to 20th century technology.
Yeah. Well, and the flip side of it is when I'm playing, that I feel like I can share with everyone.
Yeah.
Like to the 15 people who are listening. But I think those are two sides of it. I think people who don't play music don't have to worry about that. Never comes up, how they're going to express themselves musically. Maybe they dance. I don't know. But Do
you dance?
I do not. I reserve a version of slow dancing with my wife because I believe it's somehow part of the vows we took. But beyond that, I do not dance.
Okay.
But that's probably also why I don't like listening to music with other people. So I'm sure it's the same thing. I'm a fan of dance and dancing.
Yeah.
But I'm too hung up to get out there.
You mean like you'd be too self-conscious?
I'm too self-conscious before I even, like, I'm self-conscious about it right now, and there's no threat of dancing here.
Let's dance, man.
Won't do it. I'll be
Tap
happy.
for me.
I will keep time. I will applaud as cued, but I will not dance.
Do you have a plan or an outlook?
Not exactly. I mean, so far, I think I've managed to. So far, both my wife and I have managed to kind of keep enough parallel things in motion that we're never totally out of luck. There's so many ways to look around and say, oh, well, I could live in New York, I could live in Los Angeles, I could live in Chicago, I could live in Austin, or San Francisco, I could stay in Rochester, I could,
Sure.
And then we start wondering, like, well, what kind of music could I play, or what kind of art could I make, or who am I going to vote for? Like, all these things are presented to us simply as preferences these days, I think. And I don't think I think that's dangerous. I think that's cheap. I think it's easy to say that my vote is only based on my preference and not on something deeper, or that my reasons for selling books is only based on my preference and not something deeper, or having a podcast, or playing an instrument, like, or marrying someone. Like, this isn't just my preference.
What is it?
I think some of it is compulsion. I think some of it is faith. I think some of it is belief.
If people are compelled to do things that they do, then where's the line between that and having agency and making choices? Maybe you have the option to ignore what you feel you should do.
I think the question is, you're acting only in your only in your own interest, or do you have it in you to think about what other people might need too? And if you are bound to the former, that will be your path.
Yeah.
If you are open to the latter, well, now you won't even worry about it.
Yeah.
Because, you could help.
I mean, I don't even know if it's that binary, though, because I like doing this. I would do it if nobody listened to it.
Sure.
But also people like it.
Yeah.
Right? I like being nice to my friends and doing generous things for them, but it gives me a good feeling to do that, too.
But that's not doing something nice for someone else because it makes you feel good, because, that's not the same thing as acting in one's self-interest.
Right.
One's self-interest would be like skipping the helping someone else part and just worrying about the feeling good part, which you could do.
If you're evolved enough, maybe you recognize that it's in your self-interest to always think of other people.
You could go with that. I prefer to think of it the other way. I spent enough time with my own self-interest over the years. Like,
I'm just looking for a way to rationalize being selfish, man. Come on, help me out.
I go through. I have this conversation fairly frequently among several of my friends, and I think the conclusion is, like, it's always the same. How'd it go today? That's the question, and if the best you can come up with is I did some really good stuff for myself. Well, that doesn't sound like much of a day. Like, if you did some good stuff for yourself and helped an old lady cross the street, like, now you have a day. But there's no, you can't, I think by default, if you're doing the right thing, it will include these other things.
Mm.
So there's the rationalizing is only if you're already on the wrong side of that, which I would suspect you are not.
Well, I got you fooled then. Well, anyways, I think that's a great place to end it.
Okay.
Zach Barocas, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.